Hello, everybody. Excited to be here today. As a reminder for anybody that's new to this meeting space, my name is Ashley Anthony. If you'd like, you can put your name, your title affiliations, and which province you live or work in. And we always like to start on a high note, trying to share some love and, of course, usually some Indigenous music as well. And so today we have none other than the Queen herself, Buffy Sainte-Marie, featuring Tanya Tajak here. It's actually a pretty awesome song. I had to really resist from sharing some Snotty Nose Res Kids today. I just thought that, maybe the illicit language might not be everybody's jam. I definitely love Buffy Sainte-Marie. So again, welcome. Take a moment, get comfortable. There's a couple of us today, so we could go around and introduce ourselves. And then as more people trickle in, we'll be able to. No worry, John, and that goes for everybody. If you can't stay for the whole meeting, I will send out the meeting notes and a copy of the video recording as well. Everybody's comfortable and hanging out. It's nice to see you guys here today. I do have a couple notes that I did want to share with everybody. But first, I want to share that our mission here at the Atlantic Canada Climate Network is to connect folks working on climate action in Atlantic Canada and to center justice, collaboration, and of course, leverage available resources and capacity efficiently so that we can reduce our emissions and respond to climate impacts. So addressing climate change is increasingly important to the health and well-being of our community and our planet. And over time, we've noticed that different organizations experience the same needs, barriers, successes, and more. But without a convenient ongoing communication channel between climate champions, we risk limiting ourselves to a disjointed incremental changes. So our goal is to reduce those barriers, create collaboration across Atlantic Canada. We aim to critique those dominant ways of knowing, thinking, and doing, and bring in new perspectives, engagement methodologies, voices, worldviews, and opportunities for education to all Atlantic Canadians. Before we begin, I'd like to acknowledge that we are connecting today on the traditional unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq, Listooyik, Passamaquoddy, Penobscot, and Abenaki nations, or the Wabanaki Confederacy, as well as the Innu and the Inuit peoples. This territory is covered by treaties of peace and friendship, which these nations did first sign with the British Crown in 1726. These treaties did not deal with the surrender of lands and nations, or resources rather, but in fact,
change. Hey,
I'm just going to ask
they
everybody
don't
to
know,
mute.
or they
No worries there, but in fact established rules for what was to be an ongoing relationship between nations. And of course, it's in the spirit of peace and friendship that I greet you all today. I'm very excited. We have an agenda here, but before we get into it, I want to remind you that my name is Ashley Anthony, the Regional Engagement Coordinator from for Atlantic Canada from the Climate Reality Project. And of course, I'm based here in St. John, New Brunswick. Happy to be here in Atlantic Canada. And of course, I want to show some gratitude for our steering committee members that helped make this happen. Drew McQuinn, Shatang Roy, Kelsey Wilson, Sarah Outram, Olivia Dymack, Andrew McKenzie, and Stephanie Arnold. They are part of the brains behind the operation. We are very excited to have them. And of course, we have Kelsey with us today, who will be presenting. But before we move forward, I always drop my connections in here if you would like to get a hold of me at any time if you'd like to be a presenter in these meetings or you'd like to just learn a little more about myself. Here's my contact information. Now, let's get into that agenda. Of course, we said our greetings and check-ins. Let's do that as we go around. And then we have Kelsey here that's going to be helping us celebrate 25 years of the Petitcodiac Watershed Alliance. We're going to have a bit of a member roundtable so everybody can explain what's going on in your organization, what events you'd like to amplify, opportunities, volunteer initiatives, whatever you've got going on. And that's how we're going to do it today. Does that sound like a good plan? I think so. Just going to turn down this music here in the background. We love Buffy St. Marie, though. We try to feature an Indigenous artist every month as we go through these meetings. So if you have a specific song, an artist, it doesn't always have to be music either. It could be written or poetry or visual art. We're all interested in it. So if you have something you'd love to share, please reach out to me. I would love to see that and be able to amplify it. And then, yeah, so let's get into it. But first, let's introduce ourselves. So I've already done so. I usually start off at every meeting. So I'll just pass it to the window beside me, which is Amanda Page. Amanda, would you like to take a moment to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi, I'm Amanda. I work for the Conservation Council of New Brunswick, and I also volunteer with the Climate Reality Project Canada.
Thank you, Amanda. Andrew, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm Andrew McKenzie. I'm part of the steering committee. I'm a health safety and environmental sustainability professional. And this has been the bulk of my work lately, is working on this team here and working towards the speaker series that we have coming up this Monday. And really want to encourage you to tell friends, relatives, total strangers. We want to fill as many seats as we can, because this is going to be really cool and a lot of fun.
Speaking of the speaker series, I'm going to drop a link for that event into our chat here. And if anybody could amplify that within their own networks, that would be absolutely wonderful. And a heads up as well, just a note from the network that we are building a website. So we have a website underway, and with that is going to be opportunities for guest blog submissions as well as social media post submissions. Of course, we'd love to amplify all the work happening intersectionally in Atlantic Canada. So we look forward to that. We are looking to start those post submissions August 14th for anybody that's interested. We also do have a submission here on the chat from Roberta. Roberta, would you like to unmute, or would you like me to just read this?
Oh, I'll just unmute. I'm
Awesome.
Roberta Benefield with Grand River Keeper Labrador, and I've spent years working on hydro projects and hydro project impacts on many various things. But lately, in the past 2 or 3 years, we've been digging up scientific documents on how big, huge reservoirs in Russia and Canada are impacting the climate. And actually, I think you might have already chatted with a couple of our colleagues down in Maine, Cliff Prolick and Roger Wheeler yesterday. And we're hoping to have more information put on your website about these huge impacts that massive dams are having exactly on the Arctic and on climate change. So that's where I am.
Thank you, Roberta. I appreciate that. It was a wonderful conversation yesterday. We look forward to presenting that information to the whole of our membership soon. So it's going to be
Perfect.
very exciting. So for anybody that's interested in that, more information to come soon. Jack, would you like to take a moment to introduce yourself?
Hey, I'm Jack. I'm like the climate change coordinator for ACAP St. John. So I'm really working on like community-led green infrastructure projects like rain gardens and tree planting. That's about it.
Thank you, Jack. I appreciate that. Wills, would you like to introduce yourself? Yeah. I love the double thumbs.
Okay. You guys can hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Yeah, my name is Will. You'll have to forgive me. I'm in the car at the moment, but I actually work with an educational nonprofit called Brilliant Labs, and we do a lot of free summer camps, in classroom events, and then equivalents of like maker fairs, otherwise known as innovation fairs, throughout New Brunswick, PEI, Newfoundland, Labrador, and Nova Scotia. And action item, if would be worthwhile to spread through the network, is we're looking for STEAM mentors for our summer camps. So some of our summer camps involve natural making. So kind of going out into the woods and kind of making things with natural products. Yeah, so I'll reach out for anyone that's kind of interested in spreading the climate gospel that way. We recently released our biomaking handbook on kind of bioplastics and how they could be applicable in classrooms and other ways to kind of ideate on a lot of construction materials. So that's me. And again, forgive me, I'm in the car at the moment, so
No,
I'll kind of read
no,
the
it's
background.
all good. If you want to send me the links when you're out of the car, I assume you don't have them on your phone right now. I can send them in the follow-up email to everybody and amplify all of the work that you're doing as well. And then, of course, Olivia, would you like to take a moment to introduce yourself?
Sure, thanks. Hi, everyone. I'm Olivia. I'm the network manager at Climate Caucus. Climate Caucus is a nonpartisan network of now over 650 both current and past locally elected leaders. And so we work to support and connect and advocate for these locally elected leaders to take climate action in their communities.
Thank you. And of course, it's a light meeting or a light attendance today, which is always nice because then we get to do the roundtable and really get to know each other a little more. Something else that we are talking about bringing forth come September when we regather is going to be moments called casual conversations. So they're going to be thematic meetings where we kind of just get to express ourselves and create more relationships with each other based around ongoing issues and various topics. So without further ado, of course, I saved somebody because she is our spotlight today. I even made her own little slide. So Kelsey, would you like to take a moment to introduce yourself? And then of course, the floor is all yours. We're really excited to learn.
Yeah, yes, my name's Kelsey. I've been with the Petitcodiac Watershed Alliance for a little over a year now. It was a year in April. Yeah, and anyway, I guess maybe I'll just go right into my presentation. I don't have a lot to say about myself, really. I'm just really passionate about this organization that I'm with. I don't often stay, I'm a consultant normally, but yeah, I've stayed and stuck with this organization for over a year just because I think it's a pretty great one, and we've got a really great team here. So I'm just gonna share. You guys all see my screen there? Someone can confirm.
Looks perfect.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Oh, I'm on the wrong slide though. Oh my goodness. Gosh, you guys. Okay, obviously. I'm not a very formal human. I'm pretty casual, so as you can see. So the 25 years of incorporation, the Petitcodiac Watershed Alliance is being celebrated this year. We're really excited. And it's an organization with a lot of rich history. So first of all, this is a map of our watershed. So our mission, or what we do as an organization, is that we restore and protect the water systems that flow into the Shepparton Bay. And we're all about science here. So we do research, action, and public research, which I'll get into a little bit more in a bit. And also I get asked this question all the time. One of the big things I noticed since getting here is, we're like, what does a watershed even mean? What does that mean? So watershed is essentially the region covered by all the tributaries and surrounding drainage lands of a body of water. In other words, if you think about the geography of an area and all of the high points that would be in the landscape, essentially wherever the rain falls and then it's going to flow down into a certain body of water, that's all part of the watershed of that body of water. So technically we operate within 3 watersheds. We have the Shepparton River, the Petitcodiac River, and the Memramcook River, but they all flow into the Shepparton Bay, which is why we couldn't work in all 3 of them as like a super watershed. There's sub watersheds, and you can go to different levels for a lot of this, but that's essentially it. So we actually cover a lot of southeastern New Brunswick when we're doing our activities. So we began our water quality monitoring in 1998, and since then we've expanded our programming. to a variety of monitoring, education, and remediation projects, and we're always continuing to learn and grow and responding really to the research that we are doing, as well as what we see being done in other organizations and what we hear from the public and from government, as well as to what are the biggest needs and threats in terms of environmental health in the region. So currently our main projects, I always have to give the caveat because we do so many other things as well, but most of our work ends up connecting back to these topics right now. So of course, we're still doing our water quality monitoring, and we've actually had a data analyst intern from our community college over the last several months as well, who's been going down a deep dive with that data as well, because although we do kind of annual reports, he's been looking at the whole data set and cleaning it up, and just going over our methodologies as well, and improving how we're doing that with us, and looking as well into some of the trends that we can see both spatially, so from site to site, as well as temporarily as well. So over time, what are the changes that we're seeing in our water quality and environmental health in the watershed? So so I'm pretty excited. He'll be done with all that in a few weeks, and I'm pretty excited to see that, because people ask us all the time, what are the biggest issues, or I'm like, well, it depends. It's not a very simple question, but we do have 21 monitoring sites that we keep up in terms of a full spectrum of water quality parameters. We also have an in-house lab, which is pretty unique. So we also support other organizations with their water quality monitoring as well, by processing some of their samples in our lab. And we also do 6 swim guide sites. So if you folks are not familiar with the Swim Guide app and enjoy finding local watering holes to check out during the summer, I really recommend it. It's an app that you can go onto to check out the health of the water in popular sites where people like to go swim around your area. So obviously it's not everywhere available, but we have 6 sites that we monitor within our watershed specifically for that. And so we're looking at specifically the bacteria and E. coli content at those sites, and determining whether or not it's safe to be swimming there. Broken Brooks is a great project as well. So we do it. Essentially, that project revolves around trying to restore fish passage, especially for Atlantic salmon. So Atlantic salmon is an endangered species in our area, and in the Petitcodiac River specifically, they've been very impacted. It's been one of the major factors in getting them to an endangered species state, because in the 1960s, we installed a causeway, which choked off our entire river system at Moncton. And so in 2021, that was fully removed and replaced with a bridge. And so now our staff that leads the Broken Brooks project, he has this great analogy that he always kind of gets a little shy and embarrassed whenever I make reference to, but I think it's a great analogy where removing the causeway was like opening the doors to a hotel. But the Broken Brooks project opens up all the hotel rooms by removing further barriers farther upstream into the tributaries where the fish actually have spawning grounds. So it's really important that we remove those barriers in order to, we've given them access back to the main stem of the river, but they needed access to all these tributaries for their spawning grounds. So that's that project essentially. This year in particular, it's going to be a really big year for that project. So we're going to be restoring about 15 kilometers of fish habitat this year, and installing and doing that through installing 3 culvert chutes. So that culverts that were previously barriers to fish passage that will now be resolved through this project. We're also involved in a really cool project starting this year, and will be for the next several years, where we're evaluating farming best practices. It started out as a project for evaluating carbon sequestration and how different farming practices impact how much carbon is sequestered in the soil. So that data is going to get used by farmers and the national government to towards quantifying our climate and carbon goals, essentially. So we're helping with some of that monitoring, but then we also got some funding to tack onto that as well, to monitor the water quality at some sites as well, so that we can determine how these farming practices are also impacting our water quality. So really excited about that one as a new project. Our Water Guardian project is all around green infrastructure, and there's a lot happening and growing there as well this year. More and more funding going into that. So I've discovered recently, so we've installed a total of, I think it's 17 rain gardens, mostly around the Moncton area, but some rural areas as well. And I thought, oh yeah, well, like 17, that's a decent number for sure, but we're part of a national funding stream where we are collaborating with other groups across Canada on this right now. And through hearing like how many projects other folks had done, I was like, oh, I guess we're kind of ahead of the curve in how many we've done. So that's pretty exciting, and we're continuing to grow that as well. So developing infrastructure that is nature-based in order to solve stormwater issues primarily. And then another major project of ours that is also growing is with invasive Phragmites, so or common reed. So there's a native version of this plant as well, but the invasive version is really, really problematic, and it really takes over quite quickly whole wetland kind of areas, which obviously significantly impacts our biodiversity and habitat that's available there. So we're doing some monitoring work, and we're spearheading with a couple of other groups the creation of a working group for the region for this. And we're going to be doing a couple of trial remediations as well, which will be the first in the province. So pretty exciting stuff happening. One of the things I wanted to bring up right now with you folks is that for our 25th anniversary is we're doing a campaign around this. We want to really promote this big milestone in the organization and how much we've been able to achieve in the 25 years that we've been in operation as well. So our goal is to really inspire curiosity in the general public around our local ecosystem. So educating them about, biodiversity and the interrelatedness of different things and what might be there that they just overlook a lot of the time or don't realize is there, or that maybe it's playing a really significant role in our ecosystem. And we're trying to also highlight, like I said, everything that we've accomplished over 25 years as well. Not everything, I suppose, but some highlights. So we have a student actually who's been working with us since last September. She's fantastic. She helped with our rebranding over the winter and the relaunch of our website, which you should go check out. It's really cool. I'm really proud of it. But yeah, she's an excellent writer. And so she's doing these articles about different sites around the watershed. So some of the topics is the story of the removal of the Moncton Causeway and the impacts of that, Dobson Trail, and how that is an example of people coming together to connect with nature and achieve something really impressive through working together. The mudflats as an ecosystem, and various monitoring and restoration sites that we've worked on over the years. So how everyone can participate, I mean, for you folks especially, if if you are visiting the Moncton area, or want to promote this as something that people can get involved in, that'd be great. Essentially, the concept is that we're going to be posting one of these a week, and encouraging people to go and check out these local areas. So and then post a picture of themselves on social media and tag us and use the hashtag. The hashtag is important. I'm not a social media person, but I'm told that that's how she's going to figure out whether or not someone has participated or not as an entry. And we have, with our new branding, we have some new merch. So that's my friend's dog Tucker, who was our office dog for a week and a half recently, and generously modeled our new hats for us. So you might get a ball cap, and we have some new shirts that are getting made with some new branding and kind of graphic tee style. And yeah, we're getting some sponsorships from local businesses, and including some kind of eco-friendly or like zero waste goods as well in these prizes. So we're still figuring out how many exactly prize packs we'll be able to give out based on responses of sponsorships. But yeah, we're aiming to give you as good of a chance as possible. So we'll be launching this in the next week or two. And yeah, we're hoping that people really like connect and get involved and better aware of what's around them and how special this place is. And obviously a bit more aware of our work as well. So yeah, thank you very much. And yeah, any questions, thoughts, concerns?
I have a question. What was the name of that? Is it just the Swim Guide app? How do I find that app?
Swim Guide. Yeah, Swim Guide. It was funded, I think, by RBC Tech for Nature. I don't know when it started, to be very honest, but it's been around a few years now. Yeah. It's really cool. I wasn't aware of it until I got involved in watershed work myself. And I'm like, this is amazing. Like, because not only do you get to know whether or not it's, you get to evaluate a bit how safe it is to swim in these areas, but you might not know that there's this cool place to go swimming nearby either, right? So it's a cool place to go find those. Yeah.
That's what my thought was. It's a good discovery map of maybe some swim holes you haven't seen yet.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Thank you so much, Kelsey. This was really informative and I really enjoyed it.
I got a question. So I come from the West Coast, and I know that there was a lot of when they were trying to rebuild a lot of the estuaries and the waterways and so on like that, they were setting up a lot of hatcheries along the way as well. Is that something you guys are working on, or something you're already doing?
Sorry, did you say hatcheries?
Hatcheries, yeah.
Yeah, so we don't specifically, however, there's a partner group that we work with, and so it's called Fort Folly Habitat Recovery. They actually had a news article in the Telegraph Journal very recently, and I know that CBC was out yesterday morning, or I think yesterday, I don't think it was this morning, yesterday morning, they were out filming them as well for the French side of CBC to do a radio and like TV clip on them as well. So they do a couple different things. One, the thing that they're getting some press for right now is that they do monitoring through a net in just, it's actually really publicly viewable. If you're ever in Salisbury, which is just outside of Moncton, then, and you go to Highland Park, they have a net there that's really viewable from the park. And every single day they go out and see what they caught in the net. And that's their way of monitoring what fish are in the area. And this year they've actually been, I mean, I say a lot of salmon, but like it's, last year I think they had like 3 to 5 maybe like over the entire year, and they've already caught that many this year. So it's really exciting to be seeing the fish coming back. But they do also do a recovery program where they'll take out the fish when they're under a year old out of the river system, and then help them, give them in not a hatchery, but like like kind of an area where they can help them like grow past that more like vulnerable stage, and then they tag them and re-release them. So that's also why they're doing, or one of the reasons they're doing this monitoring as well, is so that they can evaluate the success of that project. So they do find their salmon in their nets, which is really great.
Cool, thank you.
Any other questions?
I just wanted to ask about the farming initiative. It seems like you're monitoring, doing a lot of water monitoring of farms. Are there particular overflow nutrients you're looking into? What are kind of the markers there? Because that's something we've tried to get our students to kind of engage with more, the kind of excessive use of fertilizers and these kind of things.
Yeah, for sure. And that is something that we're trying to evaluate through. So we're going to do like a full, like what we would normally do for our water quality monitoring sites. So there's 11 different parameters that I'm not going to be able to fully list out right now because I always forget some, but definitely phosphate and nitrates are two of the things that we do monitor, as well as E. coli. Some of these are might have like cattle or things like that as well. So we're also looking at E. coli. So we're doing like the full spectrum there. If you are familiar with Atlantic Data Stream, which is also based in Halifax, I would really check that out. So they have water. They're kind of like a central location where you can access water quality data for across the maritime provinces. So like our group's data would be on there. We update it annually at the end of our field season. So there's that. And you could see what parameters we've been monitoring over time there. And all those will be included. But we're doing a much more thorough monitoring program around these farms specifically because it's more of like it's a very like specific project where we're really trying to get like thorough data to be able to actually speak to the results and the impacts a bit more clearly than we might be able to do with our regular water quality monitoring, which is only monthly. So we'll be going out and we'll have like two kind of like a before and after, treatment site, and there'll be 9 transects at each. So like nine spots in this one and like 9 spots in the like pre and post basically. And we'll be taking like water quality data at all 18, I guess, per site. As well as installing temperature loggers. So those will give us hourly data about the temperature in the water. And a lot of these things are interactive as well. So like dissolved oxygen is highly related to the temperature, for example, right? So yeah, it gets complex, but so if you go on the Atlantic Data Stream site, or if you want to contact me afterwards, I'd be happy to tell you more about that project, or you can see our data sets. And one of the things that this project is looking at, so some of the treatment, this project that we're involved in represents 4 out of 25 sites that are being evaluated over the whole province. Our sites are the only ones that are going to be looking at water quality, however. But across the province, different treatments are being prescribed, such as, legume planting or cover cropping instead of using like some of these more chemical solutions for enriching the soil. And erosion and all these different things. So sedimentation is another big issue when it comes to farming potentially as well, right? So that's another thing that we'll be looking at in our water quality. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you for that. Any other last questions? Well, Kelsey, really appreciate that. I just learned a lot and it was very intriguing. I'm sure that everybody else has those same reflections as well.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
So I'll send all of Kelsey's information as well as these links in the follow-up email, so you don't have to worry about writing anything down. We're excited to be able to of course, amplify the work that the Pettit-Kodiak Watershed Alliance is doing. And if you want to present the work that your organization is doing, or initiatives, or volunteer opportunities, or, whatever is floating the boat of your work, feel free to contact us, and we would love to have you in to be able to present your work as well. With that, now usually what we have is the member roundtables. This is where we have all of our members talk about events and stuff that are going on, or again, all those different types of initiatives and opportunities that we can help amplify through the network. Now, we started last month a bit of a sign up for this sheet. And Will, you did sign up to talk about the innovation fairs and the natural making camps. I'm wondering if you wanted to retouch on that and add any more information before we move on.
Yeah, so sorry, I didn't have very much prepared at the moment. But we've been launching innovation fairs to really get these kind of tools into the classrooms, both summer camps. And I can send more follow-up details, but the reality is that a lot of the students throughout the Atlantic provinces don't have the opportunity to go to something like a maker fair that's more common in something like a Manhattan or Boston or San Francisco. So we've kind of been doing these large events to build the network of all classroom projects and have kind of eco-consciousness and the UN social development or sustainable development goals in line with those. And so that's something I can expand on more in the near future. But yeah, we're trying to kind of get that both in the individual provinces. So for instance, we had one for Nova Scotia specifically, as well as Atlantic wide.
And so are you specifically looking for just mentors, or have you opened up registration for participants as well?
So the innovation fair has passed. Next school year will, there will be another enrollment phase. As for summer camps and teacher training workshops, that is the enrollment for that is ongoing. And we only just this past week or so did a Twitter blitz for our biomaking handbook, but it's something that we're still trying to tinker with and get through beta editing, but it's free to all Atlantic province teachers.
That's exciting. I'm very excited to be able to amplify that. Is there anything else that you'd like to add?
Nope, that's it for me. Thank you.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for that. Does anybody else want to take a moment to talk about the work that they're doing?
Sure, I'll go. I'll share it in the chat really quick. So what I'm working on right now is a open house at the Conservation Council. I know not everyone is in Fredericton at the moment, but what we're doing is we're hosting the solar butterfly. I think I can actually share my screen. Not that I have the page open. Oh, there it is. So we're hosting the solar butterfly on July 5th. But if you're in Halifax or St. John or Moncton, the solar butterfly is coming to all these cities starting at the end of this month. And it's a really cool initiative. What the solar butterfly is it's a mini tiny home being towed by a Tesla across the world. So they're crossing 90 countries in 3 years, all through solar power. So this trailer is a fully operatable tiny home, and it's towed by a Tesla. So I think it's just a really cool, innovative invention that's just demonstrating the power of renewable energy. And so the Conservation Council is going to be having an open house. Well, they'll be parked in our backyard, and people will be able to come check it out. And we'll also have other activities. But if you're not in the area, you also won't miss out. You can find it in your town as well.
That is super cool. Who wants to be the next driver for that? I do.
You can actually also sign up to join their crew. I'm not going to be doing that, but you can actually sign up if you have 4 weeks, they said, free available. You can sign up to be part of their crew. and drive across the country with them.
That sounds super fun. So, just for anybody that's listening, they're in Halifax on the 29th. They're spending Canada Day in Moncton. They're going to be July 4th here in St. John, July 5th in Fredericton, July 7th in Grand Bay. And then if you're in Quebec City, they're looking at July 10th. That's very exciting. Well, thank you for sharing that. I didn't know anything about that. And now I am definitely going to go check that out. Awesome. Thank you. Does anybody else want to share anything?
I can go ahead, if that's all right. We don't have too much happening over this summer because we kind of take a pause on all of our webinars and meetings at Climate Caucus. However, starting in the fall, we're going to be continuing our local resiliency series. So we had a webinar on that last month, I want to say, and it was the former mayor of Edmonton who was talking about adaptation initiatives. And so we have 3 more webinars coming up in the fall. So I'll send a link to that in the chat. We don't have information on like specific information on the calls, but generally, again, it's about implementing climate resilience and adaptation actions at the community level. And then the second thing I wanted to just update was we have counselor handbooks at Climate Caucus, which is essentially like toolkits that include like case studies, resources, guides, tips for locally elected officials on specific initiatives. And so over this summer, we're going to be working on a handbook on engaging marginalized populations, district energy, including geothermal, school trustee resources, adaptation, yeah, and that's it. So if anyone knows of anyone that'd be good to talk to about, their students could talk to about these topics or any resources you can share, that's always helpful. That's all. Thank you.
That's all she says. Like it's just some small feat and it feels like they're taking on everything. Thank you, Olivia. I'm really excited to see all the resources that come from Climate Caucus. The counselor handbook is amazing. If you have not already downloaded it and sent it to all of your elected officials, I advise you to do so. I harass mine often. Anybody else want to share anything before we move on? I would actually like to share something about the work that we're doing here in St. John. So, was it this week? Yeah, it was. It was Tuesday. It just feels like it's a never ending week. Jack actually joined the St. John Community Climate Hub in essentially facilitating their first community building meeting. So, what's happening here in St. John is the city is working on climate adaptation plans and energy plans, but there is limited stakeholder engagement. And we've heard a bunch of response from different areas of the city where they feel like they don't have the opportunity to voice their concerns. And so when the hub was launched, we essentially got down to business and decided on something that we were going to focus on as a community group. And that was going to be stakeholder engagement and the bus routes. So the electrification of our transportation systems and of course the optimization of routes was something that was really essential to the crowd that we had brought together. But moving forward, what we wanted to really focus on was building a community plan, co-building a community plan featuring all the various social justice, non-government organization, community organizational groups that represent all the different intersectional issues. Climate justice and social justice are hugely intersectional, so we wanted to ensure that we had a bunch of viewpoints to start building this plan forward. And we had our introductory meeting on Tuesday, and it went really well. We presented the National Climate League, which is a data collection effort produced by Climate Reality Project Canada, where we essentially have we create different benchmarks for municipalities and compare the work that they're doing when it comes to all of these different individual markers. And so it was excited to see the amount of enthusiasm in the room. And of course, Jack and the ACAP crew were there to help balance out because they focus on that adaptation and mitigation, where we more focus on that policy and keeping our elected officials accountable. So it was really nice. And we also had members from Elizabeth Fry, Chroma, Boys and Girls Club and United Way. So really great representation and a first meeting to hopefully move us forward in a great fashion. So we're looking to reconvene again at the end of the summer in late August so that we can continue this community building and community planning and start producing some things that we can, hopefully utilize to steer our elected officials forward and any other community groups that are looking to participate and collaboratively move the work here in St. John forward. It's rare that I actually talk about the things that I do, so that's exciting. It's 1:45 now, so I don't want to take up everybody's time this afternoon. It is our last meeting before the summer break, so I'm very excited about that. I do want to reiterate that we have a couple things going on that we're looking really collaboratively for participation for. One of those is building out a shared calendar. Something that we've noticed is that there's a big fragmentation of all these amazing events going on, but unless you're in the loop, it's hard to kind of be able to access events or resources that could propel your work forward. So we thought that that was a great thing to do. So we're starting a website, and the first thing we're working on is that shared calendar to ensure that we're all on the same page and that we can attend and amplify all of these events, right? Because I know that a lot of us work for non-government organizations, and sometimes those events are measured on attendance. So we want to make sure that they're getting out there and people are aware of them. Something else that's happening, of course, is we're starting a podcast. So when we come back in September, we want to have the website, we want to have social media channels, and we want to start a podcast. And this podcast series is going to feature climate champions throughout Atlantic Canada and really amplifying and celebrating the work that's being done in another method to again attract more people and harmonize the Green Choir here in Atlantic Canada, amplify the essential work that we're doing. It always usually is under celebrated. So when I get the opportunity to talk to people about that, I would love to share that with everybody. Yeah. And then our next meeting, so our next official get together networking meeting is going to be in September. Again, it's always the third Thursday of the month. So that is going to be, I believe it's September 25th. Nope, I lied. It's the 21st of September. But before that, we are also offering an open brainstorming session. So as the network grows, we want to be able to facilitate opportunities and start propelling people's work forward in a collaborative sense. To do that, we kind of need to keep our nose to the pulse, if you will. Finger to the pulse. Finger to the pulse makes more sense than your nose. So with that, August 17th, we're going to host an open meeting. There's not going to be really an agenda. It's going to be an open brainstorm where people can bring forth some ideas or roadblocks or barriers that are disabling them from doing their work or things that they would love to have created to enable them to propel that work. And we're excited to do that. So I will send out a notice for that at the beginning of August. Nobody has to pay attention to anything right now. You will all be duly reminded. I just wanted to let everybody know that that's our anticipation. And of course, as we grow, we're really excited for our relaunch in September, where we're going to continue the innovative speaker series. Please also remember that our first one is on Monday at 1 p.m. with Emergent Waste Solutions, and we're really excited about that. We've been talking to other potential guests that will present, and it's just getting more and more exciting as the meetings go on. With that, we're also going to start casual conversations. So these are these thematic conversations where we can start diving into like our worldviews and how to create solutions. And then with the podcast, some social media channels, we've got lots going on, but of course, there's always room to grow, and it depends on all of you on where we go. So very excited. And as we close, I do want to give a huge shout out again to our steering committee members that help make this possible and help keep my crazy brain on track. So a huge kudos to all of you. I look forward to September and all of the growth that this next year will bring. And with that, we have 10 minutes left. So if there's anything that anybody wants to talk about, I'm all game. But if you want to take back this Thursday, because if you're here in New Brunswick, well, we're at least where I am, the sun is finally starting to peek out. So I won't blame you if you want to leave a little early. Oh, and Olivia dropped the handbook in the chat there. I will send that out to everybody. But again, you want to download that and harass your elected officials, that's always welcomed. Awesome. And with that, so much gratitude. I hope you guys have a wonderful Thursday and carry that into the weekend. And until we meet again, I hope that the weather treats you well and life is gentle on you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks,
Thanks,
guys.
everyone.
Have a good
See ya.
weekend.